I've been halfway procrastinating today. So I said, why don't I do a quick impromptu live just to see if I can get a little bit of progress done on this little project that I am working on. I'm doing I'm calling it micro paper piecing because they are really tiny pieces. In fact, this section that I have done already has 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 pieces in it. So this is 15 pieces. And I want to get a handful of these done. I was hoping to have this entire block done today. Um, it's going to like drive my little bit of craziness over to get this done today, but we will see how far I get. Hello, Judy, and hello, Joydy, and hey, Charlotte. I am off this week, so I get to work on whatever I want. So I said, okay, let's see if I can get some of this going. Like I said, I've got the first portion done, and I want to see if I can get the next portion at least done in a little bit on this live. I know I popped up, it's, lunchtime, it's a Monday, it's, you know, probably the worst time to have folks show up, but I see a couple of people showed up, and I think that is awesome. I'm gonna pop over into here. I've got my pieces cut out. Like I said, they're tiny. Like this piece number 5, that's probably an eighth of an inch, maybe even a 16th of an inch. It's a really tiny piece. So, uh, I'm not really enthralled at the number of pieces in here. This is not the first time I've done this block. I did it a couple years ago and gave it to my sister, so I know I can do the block. It's just convincing myself to do the block. That's the seam I got to work on. It's also, as I'm doing these pieces, remembering which piece I'm doing so I know that I have my full quarter of an inch overhang, especially on the edges. You don't need a full quarter of an inch on the inside pieces, but you definitely do need the quarter of an inch to get to the edge piece. Charlotte is sewing the rug she prepped yesterday during my Zoom. That's exciting. For the folks who do not know, I randomly and occasionally will host a Zoom called excuse me, Sewing Shenanigans. It's a private Zoom. Anybody can get in as long as you know you have Zoom installed and you want to be on camera. Only to the Zoom. It doesn't go to YouTube. It doesn't go anywhere else. We spent, let's see, 8 to 3, so that's about 7 hours. 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3. Yep, 7 hours that we were sewing. It was 8:30 to 3:30. And I got 2 of my gnome blocks completed uh, for other gifts while I was on there. Hello, Terry. Hope you're having a great day. So if you are able to join at any point, I do announce them in my blog. I do have a mailing list if you want to be part of the mailing list. I am shifting papers left and right. And the amusing thing with paper piecing is you don't have to be accurate with your cut. So I was really, loosey goosey with this cut. But it just meant that I had a lot to work with, and I've got the excess that I can use for another piece. So Charlotte said she's working on her rug. What's everybody else working on? Anything exciting? Okay. I had to think for a second to see if I had enough coverage. This block is going to be both fun and the death of me. And I'm looking, well, I have enough room to cover the green. I don't have enough for the seam allowances, so I can't use this blotch that I have there, so I got to cut me another piece. I'm being a little loosey-goosey, willy-nilly with my pieces. But that's just because, I have a lot of extra. Terry has 3 quilts that need binding. I have 1 quilt right now that needs binding. Are you volunteering to do our binding? I'm being slightly directionally challenged right now. I think that's how I want to put it on. These patterns have no real instructions. A lot of paper piecing patterns don't necessarily have instructions per se because everybody has their own methods of doing paper piecing. So they don't usually say, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this seam first. They do tell you should do seams in order. So if you look at this, there is a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on here. Those are the order that you should be sewing your pieces on. Those are the only instructions that most paper piecing patterns will give. And that's because you need to know which order is best to put these in so that you always have a straight seam. Joydy has sewing planned this afternoon. Terry is trying to still decide the fabric to use on the binding. I'm usually crazy enough to have the fabric decided ahead of time. This, okay, this piece will work for that last section. Good morning, Jackie. How are things in Arizona today? And then this one, it's literally only a couple threads. But it works perfectly in the design. Jackie's playing catch up on cotton cuts today. I need to play catch up on cotton cuts this week as well. That's probably going to be Thursday or Friday, I think. And then I will trim this off, and I have another unit complete. So this doesn't look like much, but it is. It goes with these other three pieces to make another letter. What I am making is, well, this is the backwards of it, but it is the rent logo. This way would make it forward. And I'm going to be paper piecing it. So I've got the R. These are parts of the E. The N is the one that is the hardest, so I think I'm going to wait for that one to be the end. Jackie says they're much cooler today. Today's high is a 98. No more 100-degree days for a while. It's 63 degrees outside here, so I'm kind of ecstatic. I was kind of surprised because yesterday it was like 80 something. I think. I don't remember. And then when I asked my smart speaker today's forecast and it said it was going to be 69, I was like, are you sure? That doesn't sound right. He double checked his math and it's still 69. I got up fairly early this morning. I had to go get my emissions did because that's a requirement in order to get your vehicle registration renewed. Okay, I'm going to cut this into a smaller piece. It's still much larger than I need, but it's a much smaller piece to handle. Joy D says it's 72 now in North Carolina. My computer says it's 63 now here in Metro Atlanta. And Terry says our high today in Missouri is 63. It's also like 55% humidity. So yeah, it's gorgeous right now. Jackie's asking, is emissions every year? Here in Georgia, yes. Well, if your vehicle is under a certain age, then you don't need emissions. I forget how many years old that is. And obviously, if you have an electric vehicle, you don't have emissions because you're not generating emissions from the vehicle. But after that, every year you have to get it, and you have to get it right before your birthday because it's a requirement in order to renew your registration. And every year I almost forget to do it until the last minute. So thankfully this year I had a little bit of a, oh look, I remembered to schedule it. And by schedule it, it was just put it on my calendar. Joydy's saying Georgia's usually warmer, isn't it? I never remember what the temperature is supposed to be. But I don't really remembering it being, too chilly this time of year. It is a time of year I generally open up my windows. So I'm kind of expecting it to basically be probably this temperature is normal. Jackie says Arizona is every 2 years after the car is more than 5. I can't remember whether it's 3 or 5 years old that your car is before emissions start. But I feel like Georgia wants to milk every penny that they can get out of us. Because it's not even every county that is required to do emissions. If you are in, I'm going to say certain counties, it's somewhere outside the Metro Atlanta area. You are not required to do emissions annually for whatever reason. I do not understand, but it is what it is. And make sure if this piece is going to fit. Well, I can make it fit this way. Yeah. I'm not overly concerned about the waist. Good morning, Jeannie. Judy says if you're a senior citizen and drive less than a certain amount a year, they waive the emissions in Georgia. I'm neither a senior citizen nor do I drive probably whatever that minimum or maximum amount is. Did I goof? Ooh, I've got like 4 threads there. I've got plenty. That's an eighth of an inch. A little tight, but it'll do. And I was supposed to go this way. This way. There we go. Good afternoon, Scrunchins. Yeah, this is a, random live. They don't happen often. They do tend to happen if I am off, like I am this week. She's also thanking again for the sewing shenanigans yesterday. If you missed the shenanigans, you missed some exciting stuff. Like, for instance, there was a picture shared of me in a perm. And another picture shared of me in a mullet. And I can't share them here on the live because I haven't figured out how to share pictures on OBS. So if you missed it, you missed it. I don't know if I like this. I have a very, very tiny. Oh, it would help if I had the light on, wouldn't it? There we go. Very tiny seam allowance. It is. It's just over 1/8 of an inch. Okay, that shouldn't. Now that I'm measuring it, I feel better. It's like 3/16, which I guess is close enough to 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to go with it, see how far I get. And I have one more piece that needs to go on here. Again, I'm not overly concerned about the seam allowance. I just want to make sure everything is covered. Scrunchins is asking if I am making a pillow from my Rent logo. Not a pillow. I'm not going to exactly say what it is because I have found out that I have spies on my channel who watch things and that. So I don't want the spies to find out what is happening with this. But something will be made from it. And I will share what was made with it when it gets made. So don't feel like you're getting left out. As I sewed this fabric on upside down. Okay. Seam ripper time it is. Oh, Jen got a quilt done and bound and labeled and another top half quilted during shenanigans. That's awesome. Scrunchins says it looks pretty cool so far. Is it my favorite musical? Uh, I would have to say yes. If I had any option to ever go see it at any time, I will always say yes. I've gone to New York a few times and went into the lottery, which is held like 2 hours before showtime. And they put your name basically in a hat and draw the people who get the first 2 rows of seats. So there's what, 15, 20 seats or something like that. And every time I've gone into the lottery, I was lucky enough to win seats. So I have seen it front row a couple times. Probably every single time. When the movie first came out, I was very excited, and we went to go see it, and I had thought they did it very well, but then I saw the show again, and I'm like, no, they didn't do this well. So they were close. They cut out a lot of the second act in the movie. So is there a link to the pattern? Yes, there is. Let me grab the link and I will paste it into chat. Here. I do not want to do it that way. I will do it this way. Stop. Okay. There is the link to the list of patterns. That's what I'll say. Because there's more than just rent in it. But if I had sent you just the rent one, it would be going directly to the PDF, and I don't know if that messes with the website's statistics and anything. So I'd rather show you that there's a whole bunch of other stuff there than give you an incomplete page. Hey, Barb. Trim this. Okay. That's just a little box. It's amazing that I'm going to get an E out of this. None of my scraps are big enough, so I am just going to do this. Trim this. And I didn't finish reading Jackie's comment. Her daughter would love it. Her high school band won top honors for their Rent performance. Ooh, in 1998-ish. So, and I'm trying to keep the side up that is the one. Again, make sure I do right sides together. Paper piecing is a lot of juggling and tangoing. But in this case, this is one piece. It's done. I had thought about putting on the filmed live on Broadway version of Rent to entertain me while I am making the block. However, I will sit here and just watch the entire time. I've seen it 6 billion times, but every single time I turn it on, it's like I've never seen it before. So there's that one. Okay. That'll give me enough this time. Really? Okay. I almost just. Okay. Brain processing what the planner was telling me to do. Okay. That's the difficulty with some of these paper piecing. You have to translate what's happening as you were doing it. And normally, you're supposed to trim 1/4 of an inch away from your seam to make your seam allowance. But because that's just going to put it as part of the seam allowance, I'm not going to trim this one any further than that. I'll just trim it whenever I trim the edges. Because otherwise, I am going to end up making a mistake. And that will cause me to, cry. Oh, yeah, the Cotton Cuts reveal is happening soon. Well, the good. Oh, wait, I do have a. I was going to say, the good news is I don't have a quilt that I'm making for myself with this one, but I do. I am so far behind that I have forgotten that I'm actually doing a quilt for myself. I know I'm making a tree of life. Is it tree of life? For my former coworker now. She escaped. But I had completely forgotten that I am making one also for myself. And that's just simply because I haven't worked on it in a minute. I almost thought that I had cut the or sewn the wrong direction again. Michelle says she got to see Rent with a Broadway on tour group. That's awesome. The last time I saw Rent was well, in person on it as a show was here at the Fabulous Fox. I was mildly disappointed because um, the Fabulous Fox, the theater itself, or the stage itself, is slightly smaller than the Nederlander, where it was on Broadway. And things just didn't quite fit well. It was still a great show. I'm not discounting any of that. It just, when you see the original, seeing the, touring is not always the same. And then my last piece for this one is going to go this way. Uh, which Tree of Life am I doing? I think it was called Radiance or something like that. It was a Juicy Juice fabric. I even have the backing all ready for that one too. But I've just had other projects that I've had to do, and we don't have our monthly sew along that used to be hosted in the group. So because of that, I have, just fallen greatly behind. And it's completely my fault. It's nobody else's fault. But I do have plans to get my former coworkers caught up, and then I'll probably end up doing the rest of mine during Stephanie's retreat again this year, like I did last year. I did all of Village Green at her retreat last year. I got it done in 2 days. Okay, now that I have these together, let me make sure I'm allowed to put these. Yes, okay. I'm going to trim all of these to the trim lines. As I've said, these are some really tiny pieces. And I keep double taking because I'm seeing wrong side of the fabric, thinking I goofed again. The site that I got these from, Fandom and Stitches, has a ton of paper piecing things. They have things from like Harry Potter, various musicals, your favorite rock bands. I have pondered doing just a Broadway themed quilt until I realize sourcing every shade of color that I need would take forever. And every block ends up being 10 inches, except for this one, finished. This one finishes at 5 by 10, but you can put fabric on top and below in order to even it out to the full 10 inches. Which is what I would do if I did a giant Broadway quilt. I would just make everything a 10-inch block and even them out. But considering this one's going to take me all day, I really don't want to do, like 20 pieces of them or 20 blocks of them. At least until I've had, nothing on my list. That means graduation quilt's got to be done. That means, all of my other to-dos have to be done. But in a moment, I will be able to show you my trick for piecing FPP units together. Okay, so this somehow is going to make an E. Okay, there's F, which is supposed to go like this. There's H, which goes like this, and there's G that goes like this. Okay. As I said, these are tiny pieces. Jackie's on month 7 of Tree of Life. Good morning, Yvette. I missed seeing you come in. Joyce says Tree of Life is her first and only cotton cut. She can only do one at a time. I should have only done one at a time. So what I do in order to line these up and everything it was a line for a second, is I get it the best I can, pop it underneath my machine, and I will take a couple stitches at the beginning and a couple stitches at the end, And I know that my lines are correct this side. And then I look on this side and they are pretty bad on this side because my stuff got shifted. And because I only did 3 stitches on each side, I can easily pop these out. Because this is really bad on this side. And it's not bad in this corner, but you just have to be really careful you don't rip the paper. Okay, let's try this again. When I thought about doing multiple cotton cuts, I didn't realize how much work they were each month. I mean, they're not a lot of work, but they're also at the same time a lot of work. Okay, that is much better. I'm still a little hair off on that side, but I don't know if I'm going to. I will care enough. I can rip out one side and shift it. Because you can do a clue in about 45 minutes. From opening up the package to finishing sewing, you can do it in roughly 45 minutes. Which is what I really like about it, because everything is pre-cut. I'm just going to go for it this time. Which means I probably should have done the entire thing, but have a good day, Joyce. I've got the first portion on. I don't know which way I'm going to press it yet. Put the second portion on. It's backwards. Really, Russ? I sew it 3 times and I still sew it backwards. There's H. Yeah, my G is upside down. I'm about to have to, go on hope. In fact, I may just make a new G because it's really starting to fall apart. Okay, my H is barely surviving, but my G did not. Normally, if you put some magic tape on here, it'll seal your puncture holes. I don't have my magic tape available. Where is my... And then I have an extra printout of everything here. So just recut a G. And if we remember, this one was a quick one because it's one seam. Charlotte says, "Come on, Russ." As long as it's "Come on, Russ," not "Come on, Russ." Because I'm the one who say, "Come on, Russ. You're not this silly all the time." Okay, and then trim it. It was definitely the first, not the latter. Okay. What I should have done is to, instead of looking at it like it should, I should have looked at it the way the paper is, because that's what I'm looking at. And that is now right. Now I have one chance to really get this right, because if I don't get it right the first time, my H is going to be too stabbed up. And I am perfect on these lines. I'm doing this before I like run out of good mojo. Charlotte says that she has tried to love FPP a couple of times, but just do not. Her sister loves it though. FPP is one of those love-hate relationships. I will tell you that. When okay, before I get this messed up, when I first saw FPP, it was on a YouTube channel, and I said, I do not understand what they are doing. I see what they are doing. I have followed the words of what they were doing, but it did not work with my brain. As we know, when it comes to quilting, you have to figure out methods that work with your brain. Oh, that one's pretty good. So I was just like, I do not get it. I don't understand. There was projects that I had said that I would want to do, but it I never understood how it was working, so I just gave up with the whole concept. A friend of mine said, I'm going to teach you how to FPP. And I said, good luck with that. And it was Labor Day weekend, I forget how many years ago. One of our local quilt shops, which had become my favorite and then ended up having to close down, they were hosting a Labor Day retreat. And he's like, okay, you come to the Labor Day retreat, I'll be there and I will teach you. And I said, good luck with that. And he gave us the instructions to cut these things. That I think was what helped a lot, was gave us, these are what you need to cut ahead of time. And it helped a lot instead of what I'm doing here, this willy-nilly, you'll figure it out thing. Or cut a piece that you think will fit. And okay, so these go here. They are the same size. So we get to the quilt shop, and I have everything cut, and he teaches, and I understood. He did it a slightly different method than what I had seen on YouTube. And it worked with my brain. Okay, I like that one. And I got to get this side. And ever since then, I can say that I know how to FPP. I may not be the best in the world, but I am pretty darn good. I mean, I'm working with these tiny little pieces, and they are not terrifying me. Jackie said that Shannon of Slay Arts got her path. Yes, Shannon does a great method of teaching FPP. It mostly works with my brain. She does, very close to what works for me. In fact, what I can say is, after I had learned FPP, there was a quilting show on PBS, which I forgot what it was called now, that they had a FPP segment, and I watched it, and I sent it to my friend David. I said, I know what they're trying to teach us. I don't understand a word that they just said, because their method wasn't the same method that I had learned. It was close. I mean, there was good concepts. And then what I'm doing now is almost like a hybrid of what I learned versus other things that I've seen, because I have picked up a few other things that I'm like, I like this a little bit better than the way I learned. And I have an E. I can't quite put these two pieces together because they're not the same size. They're close, but there's a slight piece difference. I have to get these camera focus, camera focus. There we go. I have to get these pieces on top, like J goes on top of R, E goes on top of E. So I have to get these two pieces on top before I can connect them together according to the instructions. Because it tells us the sewing order. Probably should have done the T first because that's the easiest of all the blocks. The N is the hardest. The N is definitely the hardest. I goofed on N so many times when I was doing this block for my sister 2.5 years ago. Maybe it was a year and a half ago. Whenever it was, I started with the N because I said if I can do the N, I can do the entire block. Yeah, it took me a while to do the N, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to do this. But this is going to a special project, so I have to do this one, and I'll probably end up having to do it again because I'm going to want to make me a special project with all of this as well. So I have been on for about an hour, which is usually about all I can talk without, saying I have no idea what I'm going to do. I will update the description below to put the link to Fandom and Stitches in the description. That is where this block is from. They have a ton of blocks available. Like I said, they have some a bunch of musicals. They have bands. They have a lot of Harry Potter. They have a giant Harry Potter quilt that is just gorgeous. They have a handful of pop culture things. So if you have any thoughts about anything, they probably have something for it. And I think most of their stuff ends up being 10-inch blocks. So they're really manageable to do into a bigger project. But I am going to actually do what I said I shouldn't do and turn on Rent on the background and hopefully get the N and T put together and get the entire block finished. If each letter is taking me about an hour, I've got another 2 hours to go. I got to get lunch too. I just realized I haven't eaten lunch. Maybe I'll do the T, then get lunch because T is going to be easy. Anyway, I hope everybody has an awesome rest of your day. And I guess to quote Rent, measure your life in love. Bye.